Okay, now we're going to look at section 3. The idea of section 3 in this chapter is to inspect the time series of events and see how that's reflected in the time series of bulk classifications. And so what this instructs you to do is to enter a particular spot, which really just zooms us to this place, 60.7 and 9.83. We're already there, but I want to show you how that works in Earth Engine just in general. If you put in a longitude and then a latitude value anywhere on Earth, it gives you, it can understand that that's probably a place and offers us a chance to go to that place. So we'll do that. It turns out the center is, that location is probably right about here. And you'll notice that this view and this view aren't the same. I'll just click redraw thumbnail in order to see that again. Now we can see that area when it comes. We'll see that area a little more closely. And now we can ask whether any of these places may be changed. I think I'm going to look in this area here. It seems interesting. And then maybe down here in this spot, it seems possible that that is also an area that changed. In order to do that, we'll look here to our friend, the inspector panel. So the inspector panel shows us the values in an image collection for any pixel that we click on. And so that's separate from the console. The console gives us print statements. That's where print statements go. Here, the inspector panel allows us to click on a spot. So I'll click on a place. We'll redraw the thumbnail at the same time. All right, hang on, I'll redo that place. There we go. And here, what this says graphically with the chart is it says the values are 1, 2, and 3. And in here, you remember there's 3 colors. And what that means is forest is 1, water is 2, and agriculture or non-forest is 3. So when something is converted from forest to agriculture, it'll go from 1 to 3. So here in this case, we have a bunch of 1s. We have 6 images in which this was called forest. And then 3 images in which it was called agriculture. And so in this case, by bulk's workings, when it receives the second estimate of it being agriculture, it is ready to flip that pixel to saying it's most likely agriculture. So you'll maybe notice that depending on which image and the quality of the image, different ones are shown to be either after 2 images or after 3 images or after 4 images. And what that depends on is the quality of the image that we see as these classifications. The way that that's calculated is how well those classifications coincide with each other. So now I'll try to click on some water and we can see how that works. I may need to click twice because I'm clicking in different places. No, I clicked on forest, I think. Let's move in a little bit onto the river. All right, let's see if we can be here. All right, so here for this classification set, you can see that this pixel was initialized to be forest. I think if I remember right, the whole landscape is initialized to be forest, class 1. Then it receives, on the first day, it receives an estimate or an event or evidence that this pixel is actually class 2, meaning water. And so it changes right away. And the reason for that is water across classifications is very carefully preserved. It's an easy class to get. And so the logic is if you see a class water, you can almost always believe that it's very likely to be true. I'm trying to say that carefully. I don't mean it will always be true, but I mean it will be very likely to be true. And so in this case, it flipped very quickly to be water. That's a function of the initial confidence and the reliability of water across these classifications. So you can think about it in that detail, or you can just think, well, it seems to give good images. So here I'll try to click over in this spot. Here's an area where it wasn't really clear. There was a lot of noise in the events. So here in the events, forest, 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 water, forest, agriculture, 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 agriculture. And according to Bulk, what that says, the effect of those events on those days are that it tolerates this misclassification as water and says, I see that you suggested it's water. I don't think that is likely to be true, but I'll change my opinion a little bit. So it's a little bit like what you saw when we were pretending to roll the dice in the introductory video for this chapter. And so we say, okay, I think it really is, though, probably likely to be forest. And then when we receive our first agriculture estimation, because of the interplay of the classes and the probabilities and the initial confidence, that changes, I think, right away from the looks of it, changes right away to be most likely to be agriculture. It doesn't say that it's at 100%. You can see the estimation of the probability through time changes over here. The text of the chapter points out that there are 3 classes. And so really we have a vector of 3 values that all add up to 100%. So on the first day, we maybe say that it's 30% of one, 30% of the other, and 40% of one of the others. And then we change through time based on it. And what is shown over here on the right is the class with the highest probability on that day, on each of those days. And so we're never sure until the very end, we're never really sure that it is agriculture. In fact, we're only a little confident that it's agriculture. But this combination, I think, of the class and our confidence in the class can be really powerful. And so we think that it's a pretty useful technique. And so that indicates we can click on the same thing in other places. Here, that pixel I clicked on was called Agriculture All the Way from 2016 to 2020. If I go into this area that is forest at the end, it was called forest in every one of the classifications. If we zoom in, I bet if we go to one of these pixels right at the edge of water and forest, we might be able to find a pixel where that goes back and forth in the events. Yeah, so here's one that flickers back and forth. One day it's called water, then forest, then water, then forest, then water, water, forest, water, right at the edge. And so Bulk similarly is not sure. It says, I don't know, forest, water, 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 and then forest a few times. And with such a noisy signal, it's never fully sure. In this case, it shows pretty level probabilities where it's just barely more likely, in Bulk's estimation, barely more likely to be one class than another. And so even though on this second and third and fourth day or fourth period, it's called water, we can look at this list of confidence values and see that we're not very confident that it's water, but if we need to make a map, that's the map that we'll make, but we'll maybe, I don't know, qualify that map in some way and say we're not sure of that particular value. So now we can do that. You see the inspector and you can see we've now seen this part. Here's one of these pixels that bounces back and forth, but it changes to, in this case, for this particular class, it was called agriculture twice. Unlike the other pixel that flipped right away to agriculture, this day maybe didn't agree very well with the period before. And so the way that we calculate the conditional probability, the probability of transformation from one class to another, it said this isn't strong evidence because it doesn't really agree real well. So it could just be that it's a noisy, cloudy pixel. So we'll take some evidence on this day, but then when we hear that it's agriculture again, that's the day that we flip. And then even though we don't see values on these other, during these other periods, we still have an estimate through that time. And it's overdrawn here, but the estimation of the confidence stays the same until we receive more imagery. And so that is it for section 3. Next, we'll move to section 4, looking at bulk D.